Hello and welcome to the Period Press live edition. And today I have with me the very lovely Louise Pitman, who is also my very lovely friend. Welcome to the Period Press.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So we were just saying we should definitely share how we met. Well, on my part, it's quite spicy, but because I'm based in Salisbury, and I'd put an advert out at the time for doing some cyclical yoga, because yoga was my first sort of iteration of my business and is always my lifelong passion. And I had put I think it was something for cyclical yoga, and I think you must have seen it in one of the local magazines. And
Yes.
I got an email from you. What was exactly you said? I can't remember.
I think I just said, I saw your ad. I don't necessarily want, it's amazing what you're doing. Basically, like, I want to be your friend rather than come to your...
Yeah.
Let's connect, because I love talking about periods as well, I think is what I said.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That was it. Yes.
Oh, I lived in Salisbury also. I wasn't just, some crazy person who was nowhere to be seen. I was in Salisbury too. So it just seemed too perfect.
Yeah, it did. And then I messaged back, and then I think I said something like, oh my goodness, yes, amazing. I love talking about periods and vaginas as well. And my middle name's Louise, so it was obviously meant to be. And we met by Salisbury Cathedral, and that's it. We spent the whole afternoon together. We had like gin and tonics and everything.
Yeah, I think we were going to do that kind of, we don't really know about each other, so we'll just meet in public for an hour. And then I think you ended up just coming back to my house, where we'd kind of not long come out of lockdown, right? Because that's why we also met in public.
We sat in the garden.
Outside. And we sat in my garden, and my daughter, who'd come back on holiday from New Zealand, had then got stuck with us and got locked down with us. So the three of us sat in the garden talking about periods for the rest of the afternoon, which was amazing.
There we go. And here we are, years and years later, still talking about periods and still friends. So I thought you were the perfect person to come on and talk today, especially because we're Menopause Awareness Month, at least when this goes live.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought we could just get into it, because you have so much that you do. We have worked together at times. Often I've done the sort of period bit, and you've done we've sort of met at perimenopause, and then you've spoken about menopause. And I've always loved the synergy that we've had, working together with different workshops and circles and yoga things, which has always been lovely. So yeah, I'm excited about today. But I do like to start with a question that I ask everyone. Do you remember your first period?
I do. And yes, I do remember my first period, and I'll share that story with you. But also I'll share that because part of what I do is as a women fertility massage practitioner. I remember when I was on my training, we did this really beautiful exercise around sharing our first menstruation. And so this is what I said. I had parents who were very active parents. They were out a lot doing really positive, healthy, lovely things. But it meant that us children were, back in the day, this was back in the 70s, when you would go out and leave your younger children in the care of your slightly older children, but not strictly old enough to be responsible children. So, like we did in the 70s, went out, kind of gone all day, that sort of thing. We all smoked, because that's just what the bigger kids did. So that's what the young kids did.
Yeah,
and
it was the 70s.
So my first experience of smoking a cigarette is probably, in truth, when I was 7, which is just absolutely terrible. And my little grandson, who turned 6 last weekend, oh my God, I couldn't even imagine the thought of that happening sometime soon. And it absolutely won't. But back then it was different times. So anyway, I had tried it, and then odd occasion to try and be a cool older kid would do it. But I had been smoking for a while when I was 12. And then one night my parents were out, and all this kind of black tar-like substance came out of me when I went to the toilet. And I was like, oh my God, this has absolutely got to be because I have been smoking. What am I going to do? This is tar. This is what they say about smoking. This is the tar. that's coming out of me, because we hadn't had a conversation about periods. I had older brothers, you know, my mum hadn't spoken. There was no kind of frame of reference about periods. And really, my mum, I remember the house we lived in, it was the second house, and the house that my parents both would have then gone on to pass away in. So a long time family home, but we lived in that house. So I kind of got a frame of reference around age. And I remember when we first moved in, my mum had this kind of funny, like, she just seemed to go mad. And we were all going, oh my God, what's wrong with mum? She's like gone absolutely crazy. And this crazy time lasted for, I don't know, a good few months. But actually, when I look back now, she was probably going through her perimenopause. You know, she was probably having different behaviors that we weren't used to. So I guess she probably had stopped menstruating around that time, I guess. Yeah. And so as happens often, I talk to menopausal women all the time that are kind of, they're going through perimenopause as their teenagers go through puberty, and it's like, you know, the perfect storm. But yeah, never any discussion around periods in my house with two brothers and a dad. So it was a complete and utter surprise to me.
So did you go and tell your mum? Did she say something? Did you just like stoically continue until you found out? Like, at what point did the light bulb go on?
So they were out, and so I thought, oh my God, I can't even possibly tell them because it's down to me being badly behaved. But then the next day, when it kind of still carried on and it looked less tar-like, I was like, yeah, I'm going to tell my mum. And she was just like, oh, it's, you know, that's your period. We'll just get you some pads, I think, and you know, and that was that. There was no kind of real explanation. And because we kind of had, you know, again, back in the 70s, I remember we all sat in junior school and crowded around a TV where we saw a dog having puppies. And that was our explanation of sex education.
Wow.
That was it. So really uninformed. And so, you know, and we didn't talk about those sorts of things as girlfriends either. I don't remember having those sorts of conversations with my girlfriends. So yeah, it was a tough time, you know, in terms of enlightenment, empowerment. I just didn't know.
No, which is why, I mean, I think for different reasons, we are just so hell-bent on like advocacy for like women's health, for menstrual awareness, menopause awareness, because of various different reasons. You know, we didn't have like awareness about those things in our lives, and that it needs to change. I mean,
absolutely.
I think it's Bodyform now has an advert, which I love. I love like my community on LinkedIn. They're always sending me videos. Have you seen it? So I've had like quite a few people like send me the video. Or Bodyform, I think it is, finally using red blood instead of like blue blood, like for their menstrual product videos. And there was another one I saw on the telly the other day. I can't remember what product it was, but do you get the like oof, you know, like when you like get that big, like, you know, when you stand up and you just can feel the oh gosh, that was it, the oh gosh feeling. And I was like, oh my goodness, yes, you do, you get it, you stand up and you're like, oh dear, and you just really hope that you haven't bled through. But yeah, they were advertising pads, but they showed red blood, and I was like, this is amazing. This is like what we need to like start happening, is just to normalize those like different things about like having periods. I mean, and then you get into menopause and you get like flooding and things like that. That becomes even worse. And yeah, finally, we're being seen.
Exactly. And that's why it's, you know, some of the work I do is about menopause in workplaces. And it's great. It's great that we are talking more openly, because it's something that happens to over half the population. You know, pregnancy is not everyone becomes pregnant during their lifespan as a woman, you know, through choice or through difficulty conceiving. But every woman, every person who has a womb will go through menopause at some point. So why are we not talking about periods? Why are we not talking about menopause? It's great to see that we now finally in the year 2025 are doing it more freely.
Yeah. So do you think that your experience of menstruation, like compared to now with your awareness around menopause, was your experience, I know mine was very like dismissive, like I didn't really, my bleeding years, the majority of them, it's only sort of in my late 30s I really started paying attention. Was it similar? Like, has that shaped how do you think it shaped your menopause experience? Because I know, like, when we met, you were still having periods, and now you're not. So how
Yeah.
has that been?
Well, it's made me, because like you know, you through your menstruating years, it's often inconvenient, or you take some form of birth control, and often some of when I look back, a lot of the decisions I've made have been uninformed. Like, well, I'll just go on the pill. Didn't really think more broadly than I don't particularly want to get pregnant. I've got 3 children, and I'm very grateful for them, but I didn't want to have any more, or at certain periods in between having them, I didn't at that time want to. So a lot of the time through my menstruating years, I didn't experience or wasn't connected to my
Mm-hmm.
menstruation. And then alongside that, I had kind of quite my career was quite, it kind of connected to my masculine more.
Yeah.
I was, as you know, but for other people, I was a probation officer. So I'd often be working with really dangerous people, really dangerous men. And I'm not man bashing, it's just that's fact that the
Just like,
majority of people that offend are men. So the majority of the people that I worked with were men, and often very violent or abusive. And so I'd kind of have this kind of more masculine, authoritative energy, and was kind of, had that pushy edge. And then at some point, I didn't decide. It was a felt body experience that I needed to not be in my masculine so much, that I needed to be in my feminine. And I started to tune into, it's probably around about the time that I'd done yoga on and off, but that yoga really became more meaningful for me, and supported my life journey. And so I kind of started to transition away from my career and more into teaching yoga, I guess. And at that point, I was just like, do you know what? I've spent my whole career supporting, helping men. Now I want to be more aware of my body and support women through their journeys. And so I kind of made the decision that I really, before it was too late, it felt like this kind of time is running out here, connect with my own cycle. So did just that. And I'm glad I did, because, there was an infinite amount of time left before I stopped menstruating. So I'm glad at some point that I decided.
I'm done with the reminder. That's the beauty of working and from home, isn't it?
And we are talking, Alexa probably picked up on the fact that we're talking about our own lady gardens. And so it's like, oh, plants, reminder time. But yeah,
Do you
so
know
I
what?
kind of.
I'm just going to say, because I'm not going to cut it out, it's just my life as a spicy person. I don't live well without reminders, and it's just part of my life. So there we go. I will be watering my plants later. But yeah, continue.
Well, no, I guess that's it. I kind of really wanted to be more aware of what I needed as a woman, navigating my body, my hormones, and yeah, that became the focus then of my work. But yeah, I wish so. My 3 daughters have obviously had me talking to them about. I remember my experience of my first menstruation. So when menarche arrived for them, it was a celebration. It was very much talked about, celebrated.
Yeah.
We normalized in the house that, of course, in our house, it was different to my house growing up, because there were 3 daughters, and, so there were 4 women. And like does happen with that kind of beautiful harmony that women share when they're together, everyone menstruated at the same time. So it was about understanding. It was about just understanding this wonderful thing that is cyclical living. And I'm glad I connected with that before time ran out, so to speak, and my menstruating years stopped.
Yeah. Do you know, there's so many like parallels in your story that I can relate to. I think I spoke about this in the other episode. So I was a chef for a while, working in a very masculine driven environment, not making space for my feminine self, let alone my bleeding body. And then you just get to a point where, just something doesn't feel right about that when you're so closed off. And it was yoga for me as well. It was my yoga teacher training when I went, and I'd never been in a group of that many women before. I'd always said that from the majority of my life, like, I'm a tomboy, like, I don't really get on with girls, I don't understand. Now I recognise it's a little bit my neurodivergence as well, because I'm not always great at reading social cues. And so I found that really difficult in groups of girls. And so I always hung around with boys. And because there's not so much of the unspoken, like, what's going on here. But yeah, and then working in like male environments and hanging out with, like, I love snowboarding and surfing, like always hanging around with like a load of guys. But it was my yoga teacher training where I was like in this room with all these women, and I was like, wow, okay, like this is I've not had this experience, that energy before, and it was amazing to me. And that was also the time, because I just had like my last coil out, so it was the time where I also kind of discovered my cycle, because we looked at Ayurveda and being the sister science of yoga, and I sort of understood that there was more to the menstrual cycle than having a period, and it was just really eye-opening. So there is that kind of like parallel where you've been strongly immersed in the world of the masculine, and then suddenly there's this moment where it wakes you up, and it's like, oh, actually there's all this stuff that I haven't really been connected with. My body's been trying to tell me all this time. And so that's not me. You have that with your girls now.
Yeah, and our bodies are amazing, aren't they? It's just I don't know. I mean, when people actually, going back to women fertility massage, and when women kind of ask me if they're kind of thinking about coming, and just say, well, what is it? And it's just, well, sometimes we kind of we think about how we deliver something depending on who the audience is. And so if I'm telling you about it, I would say, it's just a beautiful, magical dance, Samantha. Whereas if I don't really know the person, trying to explain, but, connecting with someone on that level where you're helping support their womb health, you may be supporting them on a fertility journey or dealing with painful periods or releasing trauma. It is this magical dance that you're connecting to them, and you're helping them connect to their body to be able to tune in. I say it all the time to the women that I work with who are navigating menopause. Take time to lean into your symptoms and understand what your body is so magical, intuitive. It will guide you if you stop and listen and take the time to just think about what it is that you need.
Mm-hmm. All of that, so much of that. Yes, like our bodies, like its love language is the way that it speaks to us, and I think that's so important. Yeah, but it is a love language, and I know, like, as well as being an incredible yoga teacher, I know that your like driving focus has always just been the womb, and I know you've done so much incredible training with your like womb massage, fertility massage. You've done thigh massage. You've got so many beautiful practices in the way that you support people. But tell us more about that, kind of the driver of it being about the womb and the importance of that for you and for other people to like connect to it.
So around this time, that I really kind of wanted to do a deep dive to understand my cycle more, I really started to connect with the wisdom that is contained within our womb space. It's kind of the portal of all life, of everyone's life, and has kind of real wisdom and magic within. And so I guess that's where the womb massage came from. But also, I remember actually I did the 9 moon apprenticeship around the journey of the kind of different energies and powers and connections of the womb. And I remember us having a really lovely conversation about that a couple of times. But yeah, it's this kind of I don't know, the energy, whether I talk to lots of women that have come to menopause because of hysterectomy, and the energy is still there, and it's that energy now. It's kind of, and it's not just a now thing, it's a ancestral thing. So this connection, we come from our mother's womb, she came from her mother's womb, she came from her mother's womb. The eggs that I was birthed from were actually laid there by my grandmother, so it's this beautiful synergy of this kind of whole ancestral magic, but also then is the whole ancestral lineage of what can be contained within these imprints, this samskara, we would call them, wouldn't we, in yoga, these kind of layers and grooves of history. So for any woman, taking time to just sit and tune into, I kind of trained with Uma Dinsmore Thule around womb yoga, and her seminal text, Yoni Shakti. It's a book about this size, and it forms the basis of the work that she does around the womb. And this kind of, even if all you ever did is just put one hand on your left hand on your womb space, your right hand on your heart, and just took a moment to breathe and connect that energy in between. But just, we are women. Yes, we have masculine energy, but we also have, this abundance of feminine energy. And if we take time to connect that energy, it can really help support so many things. I mean, speaking to your language, Samantha, about cyclical living, understanding just where your energies lie, understanding when your creative time of the month is, when your quiet time of the month is, when your strong time of the month is, when your kind of more emotional, reflective, contemplative time is. And I mean, how awesome is that we can just tune into our inner being and understand, get a blueprint for life, for living, for being, for doing all the things that we need to do. Because let's face it, I was talking about back in the day, back in the 70s, how life was. Now it's a completely different kettle of fish, and we have so much going on, so much kind of influence in us, in the news, in social media, just so much in the workspace. Our lives are so busy. We just really need this. I see it as a kind of a helping hand, helping hand to, because if you're feeling kind of quite ungrounded, you just can't cope. Everything's, there's just too much to do. How are you ever going to do any of it? Well, tune into your cycle and plot your month, plot your day, plot your week according to the energies that you have. Because if we're constantly fighting against this thing that happens naturally, then that's where the struggle increases. So for me, understanding, exploring, connecting to, on a very base level, as I've said, I kind of now, as I came out of my menstruating years into menopause, I kind of slightly switched towards, what does this mean for me now? What does my changing body need and want? And how can I support other women with that? And even though I don't menstruate anymore, I still can tune into the cyclical living, and I do that by connecting to the moon cycles, because we've always talked about periods as being this kind of, new moon means that it's kind of time to rest, menstruation, and as we go through the whole moon cycle, full moon ovulation and more fiery energy, it's just still a beautiful way to be able to feel into and manage my energy, manage your energy if you're somebody connecting to this. So it doesn't mean to say that just because we stop menstruating, that's it, done then. We're no longer feminine beings. Honestly, I speak to so many postmenopausal women that are just come and have this real kind of realization of the juiciness and the abundance and the second spring, it's often called. And I'm not surprised, because it's like this burgeoning, blossoming that brings you to this postmenopausal landscape that is a beautiful place to be, but it doesn't mean that you cannot live cyclically anymore.
I love all of that. And I talk about this a lot. I'm in perimenopause myself, and, I'm having more and more conversations with people sort of moving into sort of perimenopause or postmenopause. And I've even had some postmenopause clients myself. And I say all the time, like, it's, that having that lunar framework is so important, because we're not suddenly a robot with just eternal energy. We still need to observe that time to push, time to pause. But I think it's an interesting one to kind of get your head around, because it's not as prominent a sensation, because it's not happening from within your body. It's not driven by your hormones, and it's not biological, so it's not as strong. But it is definitely there. I mean, you ask anyone that works in a A&E or is a midwife, they'll tell you that the full moon is like wild.
Oh my goodness. As a probation officer, a full moon, you could guarantee that if you were on court duty at the time of the full moon, that there would be a busy court, because there would be people that, have been out overindulging, consuming and subsequent violence or disorder. And so 100% is a thing. It is. Well,
Yeah.
that's where the word lunatic comes from, isn't it?
Yes.
Is because of this kind of craziness that happened around the time of the full moon. But yeah, we need to kind of reframe the reframe the wording on that, don't we? Because it is a surging. And this
Yeah.
is the difference, I guess, and this is the great thing, that if you understand that and you welcome it and you work with it, it doesn't have to be all kinds of crazy. If you know it's coming, when things take us by surprise, like my first period, like, people that don't understand their own cycle and perimenopause comes, they don't know it's perimenopause often because they didn't understand their cycle anyway. So tuning into your cycle and having that kind of forensic information,
Yes.
then when you come to perimenopause, you're already going to know that there's something different going on. And it's not going to be you sitting quietly thinking that you're going mad. It's going to be obvious to you what is happening and what is changing. And you can waste no time in tuning into those symptoms that are starting to arise because you're expecting it. You know it's coming. And you welcome it.
So what does your experience look like for anyone listening that's like, okay, I don't have periods anymore, my periods are at the end? Like, how is your experience of then charting or cycling with the lunar energy instead of your menstrual energy?
So I've always been a little bit of a ritual person. So I have a really beautiful moon deck. So a deck of cards all around.
Mm-hmm.
I should have had them nearby so I could, they're over on my yoga mat actually. So each full moon, new moon, I will take some time to just tune into what's going on, take 3 cards each time. So I have a moon card ritual to do at the new moon, the full moon. I have right here on my desk, which is always there, I have my moon cycle calendar. I think yours is behind you on the door. But
Yes.
This is the one I have. I have one every year, and this is this year's. They're always slightly different. So this kind of just reminds me when the new moon, the first quarter. So even on the simplest level, I tend to know what's going on with the moon because I always go out and have a look and see what she's doing and see how she's shining, see where she is. But this, if you're setting out, having something like this would help. Having moon cards would help if you were starting to think, oh, well, that sounds really, that sounds like a good idea. That sounds like something I can connect with. I might do something like a good few years. I always went for a full moon dip. We've done full moon dips together before, even in the freezing December conditions. I remember us doing a full moon dip.
It was like -4 or something. I think it was very, very cold.
It was very cold. We both took a photo, didn't we, as we were leaving home of our temperature gauges on our cars. Like, what? Are we meant to be doing this? But but doesn't that let you know you're alive, right?
Oh, it really
you're
did.
going on a full moon. That is the time when the energy is high, when you are, and often when women are ovulating, they feel this real abundance and you start to kind of just feel like everything is attractive and attracting you. And so I just tune into that by being attracted to the full moon, being attracted to this powerful energy. And I found that before I did this practice, full moon would make me feel unsteady. The energy was too much for me. I'd never sleep on the full moon. So once I started kind of tuning into this lunar way of living, it's that kind of thing. It's that easefulness with which you can live when instead of bumpiness and God, I'm not sleeping again. What's that all about? I know if I, haven't slept, what possibly could be the reason why. And just taking time, I have my meditation practice. So it might be that I meditate more to the energy of, the steadying rise of the spring-like energy in the waxing moon, or this kind of, slightly get emotional feels in the waning moon as we would have been going into PMS. Because actually, for women that have experienced PMS, perimenopause can feel quite familiar. You can get some of those same kind of energies. And so when we have a framework, we can learn to ride the wave rather than just being thrown around by the wave.
Yes.
We can be in the moment, rather than just being completely buffered by the energies without having any way to be with it. And I kind of never encourage people to, well, if you know what it is, then you can stop it. It's not about stopping it. It's about making friends with it and being with the feelings, being in the dance, not sat on the sidelines looking at everyone else having so much fun and not understanding why they are. It's that kind of being with the being with the journey. So yeah, I don't know if that answers what you kind of asked me, Samantha. Kind of went off on a little
I liked
tangent.
it. I liked what you said anyway, and we're here now. So, which kind of brings me to another thought, because I know, like, we've had conversations with about different traits that are, or different symptoms that kind of show up in perimenopause that are, they're difficult, and I like what you said, like, you know, about not, you can't stop them. You can definitely navigate them and make them a little bit more easeful with being able to anticipate different shifts and mood fluctuations, energy fluctuations, knowing those things, having some sort of charting practice. And definitely there are like baseline diet and lifestyle things that you can do, you know, to make some of those things more easeful, but ultimately they're going to be there. Like it was the brain fog that I think I spoke to you about, that particularly I find really upsetting. I like to talk a lot. I mean, anyone that knows me knows that. And when I can't do that, when I can't communicate myself, I find it I feel very small, and I really struggle with that if I can't articulate. And I remember from our conversation that you said about, you know, just finding kindness in that, and that it's just for now, and that it will pass. But that was so helpful, and I liked what you said about making friends with it. And so I don't know, have there been other things, like what are the most common themes, like, that women come to you or people come to you with, in terms of like the symptoms that they're really struggling with, or like how that you help navigate those things, or if there are any like key things that you would share around that, or like how to deal with them?
Yeah, and I guess this is kind of where my business has sort of gone now. Is, you know, my journey has been about seeking, let's call them natural solutions to,
Yes.
you know, supporting my symptoms. And I was mentioning there about leaning in. So whatever has come up for me, I've spent a moment just thinking about, you know, what it feels like, what the impact is, what my body is actually, what do I need? What do I need to help navigate this? Because it's going to probably be with me a little while. What am I going to do about it? So some of the things and the kind of research and trialing of different ways to manage, these are things that I kind of share. Yoga, of course, yoga is something that's really, really helped, particularly with, I find if people say to me, you know, I've never been an anxious person until I started going through menopause, and then anxiety hits. So yoga then can be a way that we can help soothe the nervous system, help just feel a little bit more grounded and supported. But for me, yoga too is a real kind of longevity tool. I teach a class, actually, tools for menopause, yoga tools for menopause. And each week we look at a symptom and look at different yoga postures that can help support that symptom. But one of the things that we hear all the time on social media is you must be on HRT, otherwise your bones are going to deteriorate and you will end up with fractures from trips and falls. Well, yes, I don't dispute at all. There's so much evidence now, and that HRT is a great support and benefit. We also hear that lifting weight is one of the best things that you can do to support bone health is. And we need to kind of, you know, make sure that we're not subject to muscle wastage. So definitely HRT, if that's for you. Definitely weight for everyone needs to be kind of using strength resistance practices. But also, the better you can balance, which is a fundamental part of a yoga practice, the less likely it's a risk management strategy. Yes. My whole life has been about how to manage risk in my career. And well, I followed that through into my practice now, that the better you can balance, the less likely you are actually to fall over. So, yoga for balance, great. Breathwork has really helped with a lot of my symptoms. I actually did a 40-hour breath for menopause course with the London Breathing School, and
That's
It's
amazing.
some of the practices are really kind of supportive of, again, anxiety, sleep disturbance happens to practically every menopausal woman I talk to. And so what's influencing that? What do you notice? Take the time to lean in, because is there a pattern to when you're not sleeping? I realized for me it was on the full moon. So is there a pattern? First of all, before you try and fix something, it's just like you wouldn't stick a plaster on a dirty wound. So why would you start to fix something before you understand what the problem is? So breath work, lots of different breath work techniques you can do. If, as lots of women do, you start suffering from migraine, there's a really beautiful breath practice to help alleviate when you feel the signs of a migraine coming on. So I could talk about breath for like a good few hours, so I'll just leave it there. Breath work is great for menopause. Cold water has been one of the greatest menopause kind of symptom busters for brain fog. So brain fog, cold water has really, really helped my brain fog. For joints, lots of women start to, because as we produce less estrogen, it's a real lubricant for the body. So joints do become more stiff and achy. Well, swimming in cold water can really help with that. So yeah, and kind of some of those kind of more mental health, more psychological symptoms, cold water, I have found there's lots of other evidence out there from women who have experience, but also there's been some research done. And I know that there's also kind of conflicting research about, not necessarily so is cold water beneficial, but it's about the temperature of the water. So I think it's Dr. Stacey Sims says that women don't need as cold water as men to feel the same benefits. That doesn't mean to say that you can't get benefit from cold water. It's the kind of freezing temperatures I think she speaks to. So yeah, cold water definitely is another one. Swimming, if you're swimming anyway, that's going to help your joints. Swimming, cognitive behavioral training therapy has my kind of the symptom that bothered me the most and that I struggled with the most was urge incontinence. So that classic door key, latch key incontinence. Like you don't need to go to the toilet, and then as soon as you walk into your street, you practically wet yourself. And I went to I had to fight a little bit to get an appointment to see the pelvic physio on the NHS, but I eventually did. And I think that's a good idea. I think you should go and kind of have an internal view of what's going on with your pelvic floor. But again, yoga, pelvic floor. There's something called hyperpressives that is a series of breath exercises. It's yoga. I've done both, and hyperpressive is taken from yogic techniques. So yoga specifically for the pelvic floor is useful. Learning again how to breathe to strengthen your pelvic floor is useful. But with urge incontinence, stress incontinence, which is the one where if you cough, sneeze, jump, you might pee your pants.
Yeah.
Stress
like your body's
incontinence.
stressed, not your mind stressed.
Yeah, so your body, so you do need to do something to your pelvic floor. With urge incontinence, it's a more psychological problem. So you need to kind of do something about the way you're thinking about that. So CBT was a thing that really helped me solve that one. And, my whole probation officer career CBT was fundamental. It was part of my training to become a probation officer. Because sometimes people say to me, are you trained to do CBT? And I think 25 years as a probation officer, working with some of the most dangerous people, or some of the people with the most difficult behaviour in society, kind of helped me develop those skills. My degree would say, and other professional training I had to do to become accredited to deliver cognitive behavioural training would demonstrate. And yes, it is on offending behaviour. But as I've always said to the people I've worked with who have to work with me because they have offended, this you can apply to anything. CBT, you can apply to any disturbing thoughts or feelings. CBT can help you change the way you think and feel, and therefore behave. So CBT, I remember Samantha, when the NICE guidelines changed to say that CBT is a useful tool for menopause, and there was uproar. It was at the time when women were kind of really struggling to get HRT, and they wanted the guidance to say that there'd be more around HRT, and it did say something, but it also said don't discount CBT. And people were saying, oh, how is that? Well, it helps a lot. It helps a lot with many different symptoms, because it's not necessarily like when we spoke, Samantha, about your brain fog, it's not necessarily the symptom, it's the way it makes us feel that becomes the problem. You know, I talk to women that say, I'm absolutely terrified of going into a meeting at work because I know that I will get brain fog. And if that's the story that we're telling ourselves, then of course you will be terrified and you will likely get brain fog because you already set yourself up for that to happen. So it's about training the brain to think otherwise.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. You're just like a fountain of wisdom and knowledge. I love everything that you do. You've done so much, and and excitingly now because well, sadly for me, moved far away from me. You're now based in Ireland. So we don't get to like hang out and do cold water swims as much. But you now are in this incredible place and you're doing one-to-one retreats for people with menopause. And I cannot wait to come visit. It's going to be incredible. But now you've got this beautiful space. You're near the sea and you can offer all of these things. I'm so excited for everything that you're doing at the moment. Tell us a little bit about that. What does that look like?
So what I was noticing, well, it's hard not to notice that there is this statistic around the amount of women that leave their careers that they've spent years and years and years pushing their way up through, and you know, which is not an easy task with gender inequality. No. So yeah, but women kind of just not being able to cope, not being able to think that they can cope any longer at work, so the only option is to leave. They're the women that I am kind of calling in. They're the women that I've set this retreat up for, that perhaps what they need is a meno break, to come, just walk away for 3 or 4 days, just come 2 days. Mostly people seem to be coming for 2 or 3 nights. So yeah, just an entirely bespoke retreat when you need it. So often all the other group retreats that I host, I've been hosting menopause retreats for like 4 or 5 years now, very successfully, but they're always kind of planned a year in ahead on a particular day, and you just book into that one. Whereas these are just for you when you need them, for you when you feel like I just can't take any more. Come, stay, and really, yes, take the time to just allow yourself to be looked after, allow yourself to be given some useful hints and tips, and develop a toolkit for you going forward. And I have kind of like a menu of things that are available. We've talked about most of them, like yoga, massage, breath, cold water swimming, because the sea, as you said, and the Irish Sea doesn't really get that warm ever. At the moment, it's still kind of, you know, nice and chilly. But I have a sauna and a cold tub, and just, you know, doing some CBT, just doing whatever yoga you can kind of imagine might support you. We can do that too. And yeah, because it's going to be exactly what you need it to be. I've also done some, I'm a kind of qualified menopause coach. I did some training with Menopause Movement, which is almost like a 7-step overview of all the different things that you need to think about during supporting someone. It was specifically aimed at kind of PTs or yoga teachers, and what you might be able to support people with and through. And so it starts off with this kind of MOT, if you like, a menopause MOT, to see what kind of support you need to put in place. And that will be the framework for then what we do together whilst you're staying. So far, I can have 2 people come to stay. I can have 4 people come to stay. I felt like I was putting together was going to be for 1 woman, but so far I've had kind of best friends coming, sisters coming, and it's been beautiful. So if you're on a menopause journey with someone else, we're going to, you know, there's definitely same-sex partners that are going to be going through menopause together, you know. So whatever your menopause journey is and whatever it is you require, then come and stay. Don't walk away from a lifetime's work. Just take some time out, come and stay. And it's so easy to get from wherever you live in England or Scotland or Wales to, less easy from Wales. You'd have to go from Cardiff. But, you know, most of the airports in England, Scotland and Scotland fly very easily. I mean, if I fly from Belfast to Glasgow, literally it's 20, you're up, you're down, and you can get some very cheap flights. So I am wagering that it is cheaper and easier to get here Just Belfast is the airport, but we live like nearer the sea, as you said, Samantha, by the sea. So, but it's an easy 20-minute drive. We'd collect you from the airport. So there's no stress, there's no hassle. Just reach out and book a date and come and stay.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. All the things, the swimming, the open spaces, the countryside, the sauna, the massage, all wonderful. I'm so excited of what you're doing now. Are like, not just to rub your ego, but you just are just full of just the most amazing wisdom. So yes, anybody listening that's just like a little bit like, I am done, I need a little break, Louise is your person.
I'm here for you. Yeah, no, I'm really, really excited. And I can just hear, like, actually, I can hear outside. My husband has started banging with a sledgehammer because we're just finishing off the landscape around the sauna. It's operational, but we're just trying to make it look a little bit more well-being, a little bit more tranquil. And it's been a little bit of a work in progress, but it is. I mean, we absolutely love it. We're in the, we at least twice a week.
You live in there.
I know. We even went in. I mean, it was so warm yesterday. It was 25 degrees, which is warm for Northern Ireland. We still kind of, at the end of the day, we'd been to the sea, we'd been to the beach, we had our grandsons here, and then off we went. Once they'd gone home, we hopped in the sauna and had and it's just so, there's so many benefits. Again, I could talk for a while, but I think we're pushing the limits of this podcast length already. But yeah, just honestly, come. And I'm not as active as I need to be on LinkedIn. I'm more active on Instagram. Yes. But come along, give me a follow, and come and see what I'm doing, and then come and stay. Perfect.
Oh, that was going to be my next question. Like, where can people find you? But yes, Louise is on LinkedIn at Louise Pitman Yoga, and on Instagram more prevalently.
And Louise Pitman Wellbeing on Insta. Yeah, and a website, Louise Pitman Yoga. So different ways to find, but come and find me and come and stay. And you, Samantha, you need to come and stay too.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. We're trying to work out whether to fly or drive. It depends if there's going to be a surf trip involved.
Oh yes, I mean, so we're on Ireland. The island of Ireland is not huge, but a lot of it is still quite rural, and we're like 2.5 hours from Donegal, and the west coast of Ireland is classic surfing mecca. So I would recommend, yes, do sometimes up on the north. We're going to the north for the weekend. I say like it's when I lived in Salisbury, when you're going to north for the weekend, you'd be looking forward to a 5-hour drive at least. But here it's just over an hour away. Sometimes there are some waves there, but more if you go around the corner of the west coast. That's got your name written all over it, Samantha.
Yeah, well, that is very exciting. Well, thank you so much for chatting today.
I've loved it. Thank you.
And yeah, we'll have to have you back again one day and hear how it's been going.
Thank you. No, it's been a delight. I don't see you often enough, so this has been a bit of a treat on that front as well.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you everyone for listening. See you soon.